2025 is shaping up to be a brutal year for retail, and it's not just the little guys feeling the squeeze. Big names, trusted brands, the cornerstones of American shopping, one by one, they're shutting their doors. From your neighborhood drugstore to massive warehouse chains you thought were untouchable. It's happening fast. And it's not just downsizing, it's unraveling. The big question is your favorite store next on the chopping block? Let's dive into the chaos and see which 15 big box retailers are feeling the heat. 1. Big Lots has officially dropped a bombshell. Over 340 stores across the U.S. are closing their doors. Why? Blame the economy, which seems to be doing what it does best lately, squeezing every last drop out of both businesses and customers. In their bankruptcy filing, Big Lots didn't mince words. They called it straight. Inflation has wiped out the spending power of their core customers. Translation, people just can't afford to shop there anymore. And if people aren't buying, Big Lots can't keep the lights on Florida's Treasure Coast, the damage is already done. Stores in Stewart and Vero Beach are gone. All that's left, 2 lonely locations in Fort Pierce and Jensen Beach barely hanging on. But let's be real, how much longer can those survive in this economic death spiral? This isn't just a Big Lots problem, it's a sign of the times. When even discount stores, the supposed last refuge for budget-conscious shoppers, are folding, it's a loud, unignorable message. People are cutting back on everything. This is more than a corporate failure. It's a reflection of how inflation and other economic hurdles are hammering everyone, from massive retailers to everyday families just trying to scrape by. So the real question isn't just, why are they closing? It's, who's next? Because let's face it, the retail world is on some seriously shaky ground right now. 2. Burger King. Let's move on to another casualty. Burger King. The scrappy rival to McDonald's has been grilling Whoppers for decades, but lately the King's crown is slipping. In St. Lucie County, Burger King just shut down 3 locations, and here's the kicker. They didn't even bother explaining why. No press releases, no excuses, just silence while the grills went cold. Here's what's closed: 4,891 South US 1, Fort Pierce near Midway Road. 6,598 South US 1, Port St. Lucie near Kmart Road. 2007 South US 1, Fort Pierce near Virginia Avenue. That's 3 fewer spots for a late night Whopper or a quick lunch break chicken sandwich. And the lack of communication. It's like the company's playing corporate hide and seek, dodging questions and hoping nobody notices. But let's not kid ourselves, there's no mystery here. It's likely the same toxic mix that's hitting so many businesses. Shrinking profits, skyrocketing costs, and maybe even a few bad management calls. And honestly, when's the last time you drove past a Burger King that didn't look like it was frozen in the early 2000s? Meanwhile, the competition is thriving. McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, even Wendy's, they're out here reinventing themselves, upgrading stores, and keeping up with trends. And Burger King, they're stuck in neutral. This isn't just bad news for fast food fans, it's a wake-up call. Rising food costs, higher wages, and fewer people eating out because their wallets are stretched to the limit are taking a toll. And let's not forget the employees. These closures don't just mean fewer places to grab a burger, they mean lost jobs. Dozens of workers are now scrambling to figure out where their next paycheck is coming from. So yeah, Burger King might want to rethink its old slogan, "Have it your way," because right now it looks like their way is straight down the drain. If they don't step up soon, the King could end up as nothing more than a faded memory in the rearview mirror of the fast food world. 3. Red Lobster. Red Lobster? The place you'd go when you wanted to feel just a little fancy, seafood platters, Cheddar Bay biscuits, and an air of upscale dining that felt within reach. But now, the Lobster's claws are tangled in a trap of bankruptcy. On May 19th, Red Lobster filed for Chapter 11, and it's not hard to see why. The problems are as clear as a glass of oversalted water, a mountain of debt, a revolving door of CEOs who couldn't steer the ship, and, get this, a disastrous all-you-can-eat shrimp promo that was as bad for business as it was for waistlines. Oh, and here's the kicker. Since 2019, their guest count has plunged by nearly 30%. That's right. Nearly 1 in 3 customers simply stopped showing up. Factor in skyrocketing food costs and the constant weight of economic pressures, and you've got a recipe for disaster. Sure, by September 16th, Red Lobster had clawed its way out of bankruptcy under new leadership, but let's be honest, that's just slapping a band-aid on a gaping wound. Nationwide, nearly 100 locations have already shut their doors. If you're on the Treasure Coast, you felt the sting. The Jensen Beach location at 3544 Northwest Federal Highway is gone. Keep it. Now there's just one lone survivor left in Fort Pierce at 641 Darter Court. One, and let's not kid ourselves. How much longer can that last? And about that all-you-can-eat shrimp fiasco. Seriously, whose idea was it to let customers gorge on shrimp during a time when inflation made seafood costs skyrocket? That move didn't just hurt margins, it poured gasoline on an already blazing dumpster fire. Sure, the shrimp were endless, but apparently so was the bad decision-making. This goes beyond just Red Lobster. It's a glaring example of how the restaurant industry is getting pummeled by bad calls, shifting consumer habits, and rising costs. Fewer people are dining out, whether because they're broke, trying to save, or just unwilling to fork over $30 for shrimp scampi and a few biscuits. And let's not forget the employees left in the lurch. Hundreds, if not thousands, of jobs vanished as corporate leaders scrambled to stop the ship from sinking. So, what now? Red Lobster may be out of bankruptcy, but this isn't a comeback. It's survival mode. If they don't start adapting to what people want, and more importantly, what they can afford, they could become yet another faded memory in the ever-shrinking world of dine-in restaurants. 4. Winn-Dixie. Let's talk about another icon falling fast. Winn-Dixie. The beef people have been a southern grocery staple for generations, but that chapter is coming to a close, and quickly. Stores in Jensen Beach and Sebastian, done. Jensen Beach's Palm Breeze Plaza location is closing in December, and the Sebastian store will be gone by February. Why? Because Aldi, the German discount grocery giant, has swooped in and bought out Southeastern Grocers, the parent company of Winn-Dixie and Harvey's Supermarket. Here's the plan. The Jensen Beach and Sebastian stores aren't just closing, they're being stripped down and rebuilt as Aldi locations. That means goodbye Winn-Dixie, hello quarter rental shopping carts, BYO bags, and aisles where avocado slicers are randomly stacked next to frozen pizzas. Now, don't get me wrong, Aldi isn't a bad store, but let's be real, it's a far cry from what Winn-Dixie stood for. This isn't just about groceries, it's about the death of an American institution. Winn-Dixie wasn't just a store, it was a community fixture. It's where your grandma shopped, it's where you grabbed your first pack of Oreos or stocked up for family barbecues, and now it's being steamrolled by Aldi's no-frills, cost-cutting juggernaut. The truth is, Aldi's model works because families are under more financial pressure than ever. They're prioritizing price over nostalgia, and Aldi knows how to deliver on that. But let's not sugarcoat it. This isn't just about shoppers looking for cheaper groceries. It's about corporate greed and consolidation. Southeastern Grocers sold out, leaving loyal Winn-Dixie customers with little choice. And what about the employees? Sure, Aldi might rehire some, but there's no guarantee. People who've spent years, sometimes decades, working for Winn-Dixie are now facing an uncertain future. This isn't just happening in Jensen Beach and Sebastian. It's part of a bigger trend, corporate giants swallowing up homegrown brands and leaving communities stripped of their identity. Winn-Dixie wasn't just about groceries, it was about tradition, familiarity, and local charm, and now all of that is being replaced by the efficiency machine of Aldi. It's the end of an era, and for many it feels like more than just the loss of a grocery store, it's the loss of a piece of their community. 5. Express, the go-to clothing store when you wanted to dress sharp without demolishing your budget. Back in the day, it was a staple of mall fashion. But now, the shine has faded and Express is fighting to stay relevant in a world that's moved on. Filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy on April 22nd was the first clue that things aren't looking great for this mall veteran. If you're on the Treasure Coast, the one remaining Express location is clinging to life inside the ever-dwindling Treasure Coast Square Mall, but let's be real. It's likely just biding its time before joining the retail graveyard. Chapter 11 may be a chance to reorganize, but more often than not, it's a precursor to more closures, layoffs, and empty storefronts. So, what went wrong? Let's break it down. Outdated business model. While fast fashion brands like Shein, Zara, and H&M were busy dominating the market with affordable on-trend pieces, Express stayed stuck in a 2008 time warp with designs that couldn't keep up, price tag problems. Their prices were too steep for budget-conscious shoppers, who can now snag similar styles online for a fraction of the cost. The death of the mall. Foot traffic in malls has been on life support for years. These days, if people are heading to the mall, it's usually for a pretzel or to escape the heat, not to shop for clothes. Post-pandemic casual, let's face it, who's dressing up anymore? Sweatpants, hoodies, and athleisure are king in this new era of comfort-first fashion. While Express was busy playing catch-up, the competition ran laps around them. Fast fashion giants mastered speed, convenience, and affordability, while Express didn't innovate or adapt. And this isn't just about Express. It's a microcosm of what's happening across retail. Online shopping giants like Amazon are obliterating traditional stores, and malls are turning into eerie ghost towns. Each closure ripples through communities, jobs are lost, and another piece of retail nostalgia fades away. So, sure, you can still visit Express at Treasure Coast Square Mall for now, but if you're a loyal fan, you might want to savor it while it lasts. The writing's on the wall. Express is just another casualty in the slow-motion collapse of retail as we know it. 6. Macy's, the once untouchable giant of department stores, the crown jewel of every mall. But if you think Macy's is immune to the retail apocalypse, think again. This year alone, Macy's is set to close 65 locations, with plans to shutter a total of 150 unproductive stores by 2026. Translation: they're axing stores that don't pull their weight, and yes, that could include your local Macy's. If you're on the Treasure Coast, there's only one Macy's left, tucked inside Treasure Coast Square Mall. For now, it's dodged the chopping block, but let's not fool ourselves. There's no guarantee it'll survive. Macy's hasn't confirmed which locations are safe, and the dreaded store closing banners could pop up at any moment. So how did Macy's, once a retail titan, end up here? The reasons aren't exactly surprising. The online shopping boom, e-commerce platforms like Amazon, have gutted brick-and-mortar stores, and Macy's hasn't kept up. Stale stores, Macy's stuck to the same outdated formula while the retail landscape evolved. Their stores became overpriced, underwhelming, and, let's be honest, a little depressing. Fake deals. Endless sales and discounts didn't fool anyone. Shoppers caught on, and Macy's lost their trust. The pandemic effect. When people stopped going out, they stopped buying department store essentials. Even now, post-pandemic, shoppers either flock online for convenience or head to discount stores like TJ Maxx and Marshall's for better prices. And here's the reality check. When Macy's closes stores, it doesn't just hurt the brand, it's a death blow to malls that are already hanging by a thread. Macy's is an anchor store, the kind of big name that draws in foot traffic. When an anchor goes down, smaller stores crumble too, leaving behind empty spaces and abandoned escalators that feel straight out of a dystopian movie. And don't forget the employees. Each Macy's closure leaves dozens, sometimes hundreds, of hardworking people jobless. These are folks who've dealt with the grind of retail only to be cast aside because corporate America couldn't evolve fast enough. Macy's is betting on its go-forward strategy, investing in 350 stores they think might survive this retail bloodbath. But let's be honest, this feels more like a Hail Mary than a guaranteed win. The reality is harsh. Macy's is slashing and burning its way to survival, and even that might not be enough. So if you're still shopping at Macy's, enjoy it while you can. The once mighty department store is teetering, and it's not just Macy's at stake. It's another hit to the already fading American mall. 7. Tijuana Flats, the Tex-Mex spot you hit up when you were craving tacos, burritos, and enough queso to drown a small village, isn't as invincible as you might think. On April 19th, the chain filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy after being scooped up by Flatheads LLC, because nothing screams stability like a company called Flatheads. So far, 11 locations from Florida to Virginia have shut their doors for good. Adios, tacos. If you're on the Treasure Coast, though, your local spots in Stuart and Port St. Lucie are still standing, for now. But let's be real. Chapter 11 is corporate speak for we're hanging on by a thread. What went wrong? It's a classic case of overreaching. Tijuana Flats expanded too fast and stretched itself too thin, trying to grow quicker than it could handle. Add skyrocketing costs for food, rent, and labor, and mix in inflation squeezing diners' wallets, and you've got a recipe for financial disaster. But let's not sugarcoat it. Tijuana Flats made its own missteps too. The brand stalled, built on bold flavors and a fun, edgy vibe. The novelty wore off. In a world crowded with fast casual options, Tijuana Flats didn't do enough to stand out. Failure to adapt. With competition fiercer than ever, the chain just didn't move fast enough to stay ahead. This isn't just about losing a spot to grab a burrito. It's part of a bigger trend, small and mid-sized chains struggling to survive, while giant corporations and fast food powerhouses dominate the landscape. And when these chains falter, it's the employees who pay the price. Those 11 closed locations, that's dozens of workers suddenly out of a job, left scrambling to make ends meet while corporate executives reorganize and move on. If you're on the Treasure Coast, enjoy your tacos while you can. Just because your local Tijuana Flats survived this round doesn't mean it's safe forever. Chapter 11 might be a lifeline, but it's not a guarantee. 8. Walgreens, the corner drugstore you could always count on for late-night ice cream runs, Band-Aids, or that birthday card you forgot to buy, is about to look a lot different. Brace yourself. The company is closing 1,200 U.S. stores over the next 3 years. If you're on the Treasure Coast, you're safe for now. A Walgreens spokesperson confirmed on December 13th that no closures are planned for your area yet. But don't get too comfortable. When a company starts slashing locations, no one's completely in the clear. Why is this happening? Walgreens isn't cutting stores because it wants to. It's doing it because it has to. The company is in survival mode, scrambling to cut costs as it deals with rising operational expenses. Skyrocketing rents, labor costs, and inflation have eaten into profits, shifting shopping habits. When was the last time you had to go into a Walgreens? Amazon now delivers everything from vitamins to prescription meds, and Dollar General is popping up in every small town like an invasive species. Post-pandemic fallout, many people are still shopping differently, avoiding physical stores altogether, and let's not pretend these closures won't sting. For some communities, Walgreens isn't just a convenience. It's the only place to pick up essentials without driving miles out of the way. And with 1,200 stores closing, that's thousands of employees, pharmacists, cashiers, stock clerks, suddenly out of work. Meanwhile, corporate execs pat themselves on the back for cost-saving measures and cash in their bonuses. Here's where things get even more frustrating. Walgreens has been throwing cash at big moves in the healthcare space, acquiring companies and launching new services. But in chasing the next big thing, they've neglected the core business that made them a household name. Sure, they're trying to evolve, but at what cost? If you're on the Treasure Coast, don't breathe easy just yet. Your Walgreens might not be on the chopping block today, but as the company evaluates which stores are unprofitable, it's only a matter of time before more closures come. The Walgreens you grew up with, the one that was always there when you needed it, is disappearing. These closures are yet another sign of how even the biggest names in retail are struggling to keep up with changing habits, rising costs, and an unforgiving economy. Walgreens might say it's transforming, but for the everyday customer, it feels more like a retreat. 9. Kohl's, the spot where you'd hunt for back-to-school outfits, holiday gifts, and clearance rack gems, is facing a storm that no amount of Kohl's cash can fix. According to their latest financial filings, 2024 saw a staggering 9% drop in net sales compared to the previous year, and while the shift to online shopping is part of the problem, the real culprit is inflation. With skyrocketing costs, shoppers are prioritizing groceries and gas over an extra sweater or kitchen gadget. Now, Kohl's has announced plans to close at least 85 stores nationwide in 2025 as a last-ditch effort to stay afloat. They haven't released the full list yet because, of course, transparency isn't exactly corporate America's forte, but if your local Kohl's isn't pulling its weight, it's probably not safe. This isn't just a rough patch, it's an all-out red alert for department stores, a sector that's been bleeding foot traffic for years. Remember when Kohl's partnered with Amazon to handle returns, hoping it would drive more shoppers into stores? That was basically them admitting they couldn't survive on apparel and home goods alone. And while it worked for a hot second, those numbers started tanking again in 2024. Why? Because people realized they could just shop directly on Amazon. Then there's the human toll.
Shutting down 85 locations means thousands of employees, many of whom have been with the company for years, will be left jobless or forced to relocate. And for the rest of us, if Kohl's can't adapt to an e-commerce dominated world, we're losing yet another place to try on jeans, feel fabrics, and buy everything from winter coats to bed sheets under one roof. The bigger question is, can Kohl's survive? Or is it heading toward becoming a nostalgic footnote in retail history? Those 85 store closures might just be the start of something much bigger and much bleaker. 10 J.C. Penney, the dinosaur of department stores, has been on life support for what feels like an eternity, and it's waving the white flag again. After a brutal 2024, the company is closing 50 more stores in 2025. That's 50 more empty shells in malls that already feel like sets for post-apocalyptic movies. Once upon a time, JCPenney was the place for everything from kids' clothes to home decor. But here we are, watching another department store fall victim to the likes of Amazon, Target, and those fast fashion giants flooding social media with their endless scroll of cheap, trendy goods. And it's not like JCPenney didn't try. Remember their 2022 reinvention? They poured millions into redesigned stores, niche label partnerships, and flashy marketing campaigns to woo younger shoppers. But it didn't work. By 2024, foot traffic was still a no-show, leaving them drowning in unsold inventory and overhead costs they couldn't cover. Now, with inflation squeezing wallets even tighter, JCPenney's inventory is even less appealing. The result? A desperate game of retail whack-a-mole, cutting underperforming locations to stay alive. For employees, this is yet another gut punch. Severance packages have shrunk, and with the job market shifting, many workers who've poured years into the company are being forced to start from scratch. And for communities losing their JCPenney, it's another anchor store gone, another reason for shoppers to stay glued to their phones, scrolling Amazon instead of heading to the mall. And let's be real. What's going to fill those giant empty spaces? Maybe a seasonal Halloween store or a makeshift gym, but the days of bustling department stores are slipping further into the past. Here's the worst part. This might not even be JCPenney's final round of closures. If the bleeding doesn't stop, the entire chain could go belly up, leaving behind nothing but memories of Sunday sales flyers and doorbuster deals that no longer draw a crowd. 11. Yes, Sears is still alive, though you'd be forgiven for thinking it flatlined a decade ago. But the reality isn't much brighter. Come 2025, Sears is set to close another 40 stores, adding to its long list of retail grave sites. And if the company's 2024 performance, a reported 133% drop in same-store sales according to insider sources, is any indication, Sears is barely holding on by a thread. There's a cruel irony here. Sears practically invented the concept of shopping from home with its iconic mail-order catalog, but the rise of e-commerce left it in the dust. Amazon and other online giants perfected what Sears started, leaving the former king of retail gasping for relevance. These closures are being framed as a move to streamline operations, but let's translate the corporate spin. They're axing anything that isn't performing above average. And let's be honest, that's most of the company at this point. Die-hard fans, all 12 of them, might still wander into a Sears store for Craftsman tools or appliances, but even Craftsman has been snatched up by Lowe's. Sears no longer has an exclusive edge. Analysts poring over Sears' 2024 filings noted yet another year of net losses and no real strategy to turn things around. They've tried everything, spinning off brands, teaming up with smaller retailers, even launching boutique-style stores in malls. None of it worked. For the employees, it's yet another crushing blow. Many have clung to the sinking ship, hoping the retail giant could find its roar again. Instead, they're facing layoffs, forced transfers, or worse, being left jobless altogether. And the fallout doesn't stop there. Every time a Sears closes, it's a hit to the local economy.
Goodbye property taxes, goodbye jobs, and goodbye foot traffic for neighboring shops. Communities lose an anchor, and malls lose a cornerstone of what once drew crowds. Let's be honest, Sears is on life support. Without a serious turnaround and times running out, expect more closures and possibly a full-scale liquidation. What was once a retail empire is now a relic, disappearing faster than last year's clearance rack. 12. Office Depot. Remember when Office Depot was the go-to for printer ink, staplers, and reams of copy paper? Those days are fading fast. By mid-2025, 120 stores will shut their doors, marking yet another casualty in the retail apocalypse. A leaked memo from late 2024 summed it up bluntly. These closures are inevitable. With sales vanishing and online shopping taking over, Office Depot is struggling to justify its brick-and-mortar presence. Think about it. When was the last time you actually walked into an Office Depot? With Amazon offering same-day delivery for office supplies, physical stores feel increasingly unnecessary. Rising costs of real estate, labor, and shipping have hammered the company's profit margins, and inflation is squeezing small businesses, making bulk supply purchases less appealing. Add to that the lingering work-from-home trend, and Office Depot's core customer base has shrunk dramatically. According to their 2024 financial report, same-store sales dropped another 8%, the fourth consecutive annual decline. That's a flashing neon sign screaming, "Something's wrong!" The closures don't just hurt Office Depot, they hit employees hardest. Each store employs between 15 and 50 people, and with 120 stores closing, thousands of workers will lose jobs. For many, this was a stable retail gig in an increasingly unstable economy. And for communities, empty storefronts become glaring reminders of shrinking retail options and declining tax revenues. Office Depot claims to be pivoting toward digital transformation and business-to-business solutions. Translation, they're banking on enterprise contracts and specialized orders while abandoning the big box model that once defined them. Will it work? Hard to say. Staples, their closest competitor, isn't exactly thriving either, and even Walmart's stationery section eats into their market share. One thing's clear, the glory days of Office Depot, the times when office managers swore by their weekly runs to restock paper clips and toner, are long gone. These 120 closures might just be the beginning of a much bigger downsizing. 13th, Staples, the so-called everything you need for work and school powerhouse, is gearing up to shutter 70 more stores in 2025. That leaves even fewer places for those last-minute, I need a binder now emergencies. The company's 2024 year-end report paints a grim picture, a 5% drop in overall revenue. Sure, it's better than the 10% dive they took in 2023, but it's hardly the turnaround they were hoping for. The problem? Staples just can't compete with the wave of customers ditching in-person office supply runs for the speed, convenience, and lower prices of online shopping. Coupons, price matches, and rewards programs can only go so far when Amazon offers same-day delivery on practically everything. Staples has been wrestling with this crisis for years, trying to reinvent itself. They rolled out co-working spaces in select stores, doubled down on print and ship services, and even launched Staples studio locations that looked more like trendy coffee shops than stationery outlets. But none of it has stopped the bleeding. Foot traffic is down 15% compared to just 2 years ago, according to 2024 data. That's a problem for a business model built on impulse buys and add-ons. Inflation hasn't helped either. When freelancers, small businesses, and even big corporations are pinching pennies, making a dedicated office supply run feels unnecessary. Many businesses now centralize their orders through bulk contracts with, you guessed it, Amazon Business, a juggernaut in the space. Staples has tried courting large corporate clients, but competition is fierce, and they've struggled to stand out. Now, with 70 closures on the horizon, the company says it's reallocating resources to high-performing markets. Translation: if your local Staples isn't pulling its weight, it's getting the axe. This means employees will be left scrambling, forced to relocate, reapply, or start over entirely. And for the communities losing their Staples, it's another empty storefront, a glaring symbol of retail's slow collapse. So, can Staples reinvent itself enough to survive, or is it destined to join the long list of once dominant retailers reduced to cautionary tales? The clock is ticking. 14, Sam's Club, Walmart's warehouse sibling, might look like it's coasting on the retail giant's success, but 2025 is telling a different story. The chain just announced plans to close 20 underperforming locations across states like Florida, Texas, and California. Leaked documents from late 2024 revealed that these clubs posted a collective 7% drop in year-over-year revenue, a troubling figure especially compared to Costco's steady growth during the same period. Even more concerning, Sam's Club's membership renewal rate dropped from 89% in 2023 to 86% in 2024. At first glance, 3 percentage points might not sound like much, but when you're dealing with tens of millions of members, that's a huge loss in revenue. Why the slump? Inflation is hitting bulk retailers hard. Shoppers are more price sensitive than ever, often hunting for deals across multiple stores, or skipping bulk buying altogether if it means shelling out a large sum up front. Online bulk options like Amazon Prime Pantry and Boxed are also siphoning customers away, and even Walmart's own website sometimes undercuts Sam's Club on popular items. Supply chain issues have further complicated things, pushing up prices on everyday essentials and souring customer loyalty. And then there's Costco. Costco's cult-like following, unique product offerings, and perceived higher quality have kept it growing strong. Its legendary $1.50 hot dog and soda deal doesn't hurt either. Meanwhile, Sam's Club often comes across as Walmart on steroids, massive and cheaper, but missing the intangible experience factor that keeps Costco customers coming back for more. By closing these 20 locations, Sam's Club is admitting that some regions just aren't profitable anymore. But it's not just about the numbers. Each Sam's Club employs up to 200 workers, meaning roughly 4,000 employees will face unemployment or forced relocation. And while Walmart has a massive footprint, not every displaced worker will find a role at a nearby store, especially in already saturated job markets. For communities, losing a Sam's Club isn't just about saying goodbye to bulk peanut butter tubs and mega packs of toilet paper. It's losing a major employer, a significant source of tax revenue, and a retail anchor that drives traffic to neighboring businesses. Whether Sam's Club can stabilize its membership base and hold on to its remaining locations remains to be seen. But one thing's for sure, 2025 is shaping up to be another brutal year for big box warehouse stores. 15. Lowe's, America's second largest home improvement chain, is hammering the final nails into 30 more stores in 2025. For communities already grappling with economic uncertainty, this news hits like a wrecking ball. After a lackluster 3% sales growth in 2024, Lowe's decided that shutting down underperforming locations is the best way to calm jittery investors and refocus on its e-commerce strategy. Let's not sugarcoat it. With Home Depot dominating the market and online powerhouses like Amazon muscling in on tools and paint supplies, Lowe's is feeling the heat. Add inflation into the mix, forcing homeowners to think twice before tackling that kitchen remodel while their grocery bills skyrocket, and the struggle becomes all too real. These closures aren't random. They're targeting areas where foot traffic plummeted in 2024, creating a vicious cycle. Fewer customers mean less revenue, which leads to dwindling inventory and smaller staff. That, in turn, drives even more customers away, leaving Lowe's with no choice but to pull the plug. What's left behind? Another empty big box shell, a sad reminder of a local economy on shaky ground. And it's not just Lowe's customers feeling the pinch. Think about the tradespeople and DIYers who relied on quick trips to grab materials mid-project. Sure, they could switch to Home Depot, but what if the nearest one is miles away? Convenience goes out the window, and the businesses near these Lowe's locations, restaurants, coffee shops, small hardware stores, take a hit too. Each Lowe's employs between 100 to 175 people, from weekend part-timers to full-time specialists who know the difference between every power drill on the shelf. That's thousands of workers now scrambling for jobs in a retail sector that's already tough as nails. Lowe's says they'll offer relocation opportunities where possible, but let's be real. That's little comfort if the nearest open store is 50 miles away, or if you've got deep roots in your community. This is a sobering reminder of how corporate decisions made thousands of miles away can gut local economies in the blink of an eye. The bigger question: can Lowe's withstand the mounting pressure? They're betting on e-commerce growth and curbside pickup to carry them forward, but let's face it, this is a hands-on industry. Most people want to touch, see, and compare products before dropping cash on a new bathroom sink or deck materials. If inflation keeps squeezing household budgets and the market spirals further, we could see even more big box home improvement stores shutting their doors. Lowe's has been around for decades, but legacy alone won't guarantee survival in this cutthroat retail landscape that's chewing up giants left and right. So, what does the future hold? Are we watching the end of big box stores, or will some of them rise from the ashes? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and hey, while you're here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you won't miss the next chapter in this retail revolution. Stay sharp, and we'll see you next time.